I was a bit confused when they said that my grandfather wasn't illegitimate, because I'm sure that that kind of little family rumour had been going around for quite a few years. But apparently not, which is actually really good, because I kind of like the idea that, you know, that there was some kind of solidity in his background. So now I'm going to Balmoral Castle, and that's an extraordinary thing to be doing. It would be very interesting to know when my grandfather went into service, and my grandmother too, specifically what they did. Wow. Oh my God, this scenery is to die for. It's truly amazing.
The Balmoral estate was purchased for Queen Victoria by Prince Albert in 1852, after she fell in love with the Scottish Highlands. From the early days, ghillies and gamekeepers played a crucial role in the royal pastimes of hunting and fishing. Annie's grandfather, William Ferguson, worked on the estate in the early 1900s, when King George V was on the throne. Annie has an appointment with royal expert Charles Moseley.
So here we are in the great outdoors, where your grandfather would have roamed, up on the hills there.
That's right.
Where the snow's still lying, even in late April. He'd have been helping the gentry and the royals to stalk deer, and he'd have driven grouse, and he may have acted as a loader.
Does that mean that he loaded guns?
He was stuffing cartridges into a double-barreled shotgun to hand to the game bird shooter, let us call him George V, who was known for bringing down 4 or 5 birds before they'd hit the ground. He was so good, and that was an important part of being a ghillie.
So it's all about hunting, shooting and fishing?
Real countryman's skills.
He was very strongly connected with the land.
Well, being a ghillie, you were helping manage nature, really, keeping it in harmony.
In some ways, I think that they had a really excellent life, you know, my grandparents.
I think if you lived in this part of the world with its beautiful scenery, it was a very good place to identify with. And you dined off salmon much more frequently than the poor wretches down in the south did.
The first time I ever ate salmon was actually a fish that my grandfather had caught out of the River Spey. My grandmother grilled it for me under the grill with a little bit of butter, and it was the most extraordinary flavour, and I've never forgotten that. I don't think anything has ever matched it since.
Fresh caught salmon,
Yeah.
yes, delicious. There's nothing like it.
Gamekeepers like William Ferguson spent most of their time out on the estate, but they were invited into the castle itself for the staff balls.
This is the room where the ghillie's ball is held. Let's go over and have a look.
It's very splendid. According to family history, my grandfather danced in this ballroom, and one particular occasion, apparently he was a very good dancer, so he danced. He was invited to dance with our current Queen's mother. And my auntie told me that my grandmother wasn't invited to this ball, you see, but she was kind of sneaking a peek. But now that we've come in here, I have noticed that there's a balcony, and thinking there's no other place that she could have sneaked a peek from. So do you think it might have been there?
I think so. It's a very good vantage point, and if she kept her head down, as I'm sure a ghillie's girlfriend would have done, would have learnt how to do, then she would have been able to keep out of sight while she watched her quarry.
So I'm curious to know a little bit more about the specific dates when my grandparents were here, and you're holding in your hands some very authentic looking records.
They come from the Royal Archives in Windsor, and that's your grandfather's employment record. William Ferguson, born in 1896, taken on in 1913, so he was 16 at the time. That's
And
your
here's my grandma's record.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Peyton Dora Jean, the dairy. So the date of commencement of service was the 22nd of January, 1924.
She was here until she left to get married. Which is in 1929.
29.
So she was probably on the premises, milking and churning her butter and catching the eye of William Ferguson for about 4 years.
Right.
So whatever courtship it was probably not a lightning one. Whatever his twinkling toes may have done on the dance floor, he was a more steady wooer, let's put it that way.
Yes, yes. Well, he was a modest person, you know. I don't imagine.
Great dancers often are. Great dancers often are.